Good evening, everyone. I'm Akush Lapinder. Defense Force Commodore Tellis Bethel's been directed to do an immediate assessment of key government structures in the wake of the shooting death of Petty Officer Philip Paul early Sunday morning. National Security Minister Marvin Dames telling reporters that this is to ensure that such a tragedy does not reoccur.
In our planning, we've been talking about taking really a tiered approach. For example, when you look at a place like Government House, for far too long, the security focus has been relatively the same. We're living in a different world now. We see what is taking place around us on a daily basis. And so we have to ensure that we bring our security measures up to address any kind of challenges that we anticipate. In addition to that, we're also looking at how we can bring technology to the fore as well. To work along with the human component.
Now, the minister has accepted that as it relates to security at government buildings, there's room for improvement. However, he reiterated that changes and consultations have been in the pipeline long before Sunday's tragedy.
And so one of the things that we recognize is that we have to change this. And so I've had a team working on a policy in relations to security at government buildings to ensure that we bring the requisite security that is needed to protect these buildings to the forefront.
A 30-year veteran on the Defense Force, Paul, was killed when another officer gained access to the government house's guardhouse around 2:30 a.m. Sunday and opened fire, wounding Paul multiple times. He died on the scene.
We're in the process of assembling a team of individuals who will look at this incident in isolation of the investigation that's currently being conducted by the police. So they will look at practices, procedures, and protocols, and to look to see what may have happened, how it happened, why it happened, and whether anyone was responsible for it happening, and what we need to do in the short term to address any issues.
Well, a prayer and healing service taking place at Government House for Marines this morning in the wake of Officer Paul's slaying. Bringing words of comfort to the group was Governor General Dame Marguerite Pinley. The incident also a talking point for Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis during his address last evening to the Voice of Deliverance Ministry's 37th Annual General Assembly. In expressing condolences, Dr. Minnis also called on the church to pray for the soul of Paul and fellow members of the Defense Force who witnessed the killing. The Prime Minister further thanked the men and women of all uniformed branches who protect the country daily, encouraging all to never forget their sacrifice and devotion. While the Democratic National Alliance equally troubled by the fatal shooting, the party's Deputy Bushme and Brister noting in a release that Paul's killing brings back painful memories of aide-de-camp to the Governor General Carlos Blatcher's fatal shooting last September. The 45-year-old inspector was at the time waiting in his vehicle to pick up his son from H.O. Nash Junior High. All things considered, Mr. Brister reasons that it's not difficult to understand why Bahamians would be concerned about their own safety following this latest incident. The DNA deputy is urging the government to move with haste to allay the fears of the populace and restore the confidence of the people in the country's crime-fighting initiatives. A disdaining U.S. report on the shooting death of American businessman Elaine Perez in Bimini this past Sunday. The report aired on Florida's WPLG Local 10 warns U.S. citizens about going to the island, alleging that medical care is inadequate there. Perez's lawyer, who claims he was in Bimini at the time, says veterinarian clinics in Florida have more adequate equipment and trained staff than the island's health facility. Well, here's what Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands had to say about that.
I am advised that the patient was greeted at the clinic by a consultant physician, Dr. Keisha Smith. She was there well before he arrived at the clinic. She is trained and performed advanced trauma life support care to him. The patient was shot multiple times to the torso, and it is conceivable that he did indeed have life-threatening injuries, and he succumbed from these injuries. Again, this is very unfortunate, but whether or not any change in equipment would have made a difference in this gentleman's outcome, I think we don't have enough information to answer that.
Still, the report goes on to point out that the clinic does not have the capacity to deal with traumatic incidents, as Perez's lawyer claims. Dr. Sands says contact was made with both Nassau and the U.S. Air Ambulance Services.
There is a protocol that is followed for air ambulances coming from the United States. They require admission, acceptance at a hospital. In the hour and 50 minutes or so that she was caring for him, no acceptance for admission to hospital in the United States was obtained. And as such, the air ambulance service was scrambled from New Providence to bring him to Doctors Hospital. Unfortunately, the patient succumbed before the air ambulance arrived.
As for optimizing clinics or healthcare facilities throughout the country, Dr. Sands says this is something that is being worked on, not just for tourists, but Bahamians.
Bear in mind in an archipelago that we have 98 clinics around the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And those 98 clinics, we try to standardize the care that's provided, and we have a hub and spoke model so that there's different capacity at the major facilities in Grand Bahama and in New Providence. And we're trying to strengthen the capacity in other hubs so that we can respond to the majority of issues that arise.
Armed and extremely dangerous are the two words police have slapped on wanted suspect Nigel Jamal Forbes, known on the streets as Guy Fawkes. The 41-year-old is being sought in connection with an attempted murder charge. An All Points bulletin pins his eye color and complexion as dark brown. His build is average, his height 6 feet, weight 169 pounds. He's also said to have a low haircut. No fixed address noted. However, anyone with information on the suspect's whereabouts should call into the Central Detective Unit or the nearest police station. You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.
This segment of the news was brought to you by Alive.